So another great way to be popular is to make a connection with them and to use humor and openness and self-deprecating kind of talk in order to really sort of help them get to know you, that you're not as serious as maybe you come off to be. But self-deprecating, meaning you poke fun at yourself, you poke fun at others perhaps, but you poke fun at yourself, but make sure that you're not poking fun at yourself all the time and make you look like an idiot. So, but if you make mistakes, that's okay. I mean, we're all humans and there's transparency here. And this type of motivational profile actually understands that and empathizes with it because everyone is flawed. So make that connection. Use humor if you've got a sense of humor as much as possible. People always seem to like that. And salespeople certainly like it, and most salespeople, typically the ones that I've met, have a pretty good sense of humor in general. And use that openness to share your personal information. How much personal information that you share is up to you. But this is how you build this popularity in the right way. So also get to know them on the flip side. Get to know them and ask personal questions of them, but don't pry. I mean, you don't want to get too deep. You don't want to get to know the terms of their previous divorce and all the messiness that goes along with that. I mean, sort of hold back a little bit. You don't want to play the psychologist. You want to be supportive and helpful, but sometimes this group takes it a little bit too far. You end up becoming the psychologist for them. And that is when it crosses that line. If they're sharing too much personal information with you, you might need to just sort of hold off or push back a little bit on that. So getting to know them and getting them comfortable with you is one thing, but at a certain point, and I think you need to know where this is, and it's going to depend, you're going to have to draw that line and not get too personal with them, especially when they talk about personal matters such as family or anything health related, any of those sorts of things. Then you're coming in contact with other problems that are HR related, which you don't even want to get into. So do draw that line, put up that wall to a certain degree. Where that is going to be really up to you. So don't become their friend in the classic sense. Maintain a professional distance. And this goes along with some of the other tips that we're talking about here. You can definitely become friends with them. And I still have salespeople that I managed once, and I consider them friends. I have a bunch of people that I still keep very close contact with, and I consider them friends now. When I was their boss, it was very much of a collegial relationship. And whenever we would go into accounts, I never really wanted them to say, this is my sales manager. It always made me feel uncomfortable. I would always say, this is somebody that I work with. And if they pried more, they say, oh, who is this? Is it your boss? Yeah, I mean, you tell them who you are, obviously. But yeah, I mean, you become their friend, but not in the classic sense where you're hanging out all the time. Plus, you've got to be careful here. If you've got a group of salespeople and you take a particular liking, and chances are you probably like, if you've got 10 salespeople, you really like one or two or three of them. Don't start going over to their house on the weekends and playing golf with them or doing whatever it is that you do with your friends, because that talk is going to get back to the other 7 or 8 people, and then you immediately lose trust and rapport with them. So be very careful with these sorts of things. So another 2 things that we're going to talk about in later shows here is be enthusiastic always, but not a rah-rah cheerleader, and be approachable. So you need to be enthusiastic about what they want to do. You want to support them. You want to be very much in support and helpful and encouraging as much as possible, but don't go overboard, because people love others who are very supportive of themselves and are interested in what they're doing, but don't go overboard. Don't make it so that it just comes across as being superficial. And also, like we said, be approachable as well, meaning that don't push people off when they actually ask you for individual help, because that ends up really being a detriment to trust building. If you don't have time, for example, for a problem, tell them make a time later on when you do have time. And don't forget, don't blow it off. Also, use a variety of approaches when you're teaching and you're coaching a lot of new skills. And don't rely on the corporate way. Say, this is the way the company wants to do it. This is my interpretation of it. And this is the way that I think it's going to work in the real world. People realize that if you just come across as a corporate automaton, your salespeople are immediately going to be alienated by this. And the ones that are primarily motivated by people and affiliation and relationships are very much turned off by you just reading from the corporate manual. Interpret the corporate manual. Make your own suggestions to it. Abide by it. Stick by it, obviously. But make it your own and make it individual to them. And second to last here is don't be rigid and be flexible in your approach. Always be open to their suggestions as well. If you say this is the only way that it can be done, then you're going to not be able to build rapport very quickly, and you're going to become very unpopular if you're very rigid in your approach. And lastly, be organized, and most importantly, like we had referred to just a few moments ago, is be competent. You have to be competent in your job. And I was talking to a salesperson just last night that they have a sales manager who is extremely friendly. They really like them. They used to be their colleague, and great guy, very popular with his troops. But the problem is that he's not competent. He's having individual issues that are compensation related, and this guy is not going to bat for him. So how effective and how motivated is this salesperson? Not very. And he was telling me exactly what he's doing to try and look for another job and go to different organizations and just leave the field entirely. And it's primarily because of his boss. He's getting the short end of the stick on compensation issues. Too long to get into in this show here, but his boss is not backing him up and not being a competent sales manager. But that's the quickest way to end your popularity, is to lack competence and also lack organization. So keep those things in mind to become a popular sales manager the right way. Now, just to review here on our show, don't think that sales management isn't a popularity contest. It definitely is. Salespeople are naturally vested in pleasing a sales manager who they genuinely respect and like. Focus on making the right decision, not the popular decision. Make a positive sales manager-salesperson relationship. Don't dazzle them with your knowledge, but always be prepared and organized. Make a connection. Use humor if you need to. Get to know them and ask personal questions. Don't pry, though. And don't become their friend in the classic sense. Be enthusiastic and approachable. And offer individual assistance and help when needed. If you're busy, make sure that you make time for them. And use a variety of approaches. Don't become a corporate automaton, and don't just rely on the corporate way. And use a flexible approach in your sales management style when you're coaching them. Be open to suggestions. And lastly, be competent and be organized. Nothing can undermine your popularity like an incompetent or disorganized sales manager. Now, for hundreds of other sales management techniques and strategies such as this one, you can find them in the Sales Management Mastery Academy, along with tons of done-for-you resources to help your sales managers achieve sales management success. To claim your free sales manager training inside the Sales Management Mastery Academy, including our most popular training of all time, How to Motivate Your Sales Team to Peak Performance, visit salestraininggift.com. That's it for this week's episode of Sales Management Mastery. Until next time, wishing you ultimate sales management success.
You've been listening to the sales management, motivational, and leadership training expert, Ralph Burns. Ralph invites you to discover the sales manager training secrets that will unleash a flood of new sales from your sales team. Visit salestraininggift.com and you'll get instant access to your choice of life-changing sales manager training techniques, only taught in the internationally acclaimed Sales Management Mastery Academy online community. Go now to salestraininggift.com. Sales Management Mastery.